Welcome to the Swine Nutrition Blackbelt Podcast, the latest swine nutrition research digested for you. I'm your host, Clayton Chastain, and today we have with us Gilles Langeoire, a swine nutritionist and consultant. So Gilles, before we get started, would you mind giving the audience a short introduction about yourself?
Yes, thank you very much, Clayton. Very nice for you to give me the opportunity to talk about swine nutrition. I'm a nutritionist, I'm an engineer, and I work for many years now in the feed industry, always specialized in swine. I work for a different nutrition company in France, but also abroad. And that's my main experience talking about swine nutrition. So now I'm consultant for different companies, the feed mill, and also from some additive producer company.
Securing the future of your valuable sow herd begins with your gilts. Gilt preparation is the foundation of the sow herd as well as its progeny, leading to more sustainable swine production. For nearly 4 decades, our tailored services and multifaceted solutions have ensured lifetime performance from the beginning. DSM offers gilt protection you can trust. Learn more at dsm.com/sow longevity. Gotcha.
So let's talk about acid binding capacity in pigs and kind of your work over there and what you've seen with that. Because that topic's been a little bit more popular in Europe than it has been in the US lately. But how does acid binding capacity work, and why is it important to have a low acid binding capacity diet?
Yes, it's a quite old story. We started to work on that acidification of the piglet diet, and I want to emphasize on the fact that acidification is mainly important for the young piglet and the growing piglet. After that, for the growing pigs or even for sows, it's not really necessary to pay attention to that acidification. We have different other solutions for that. But yeah, concerning the piglet feed, we have to remember that in the beginning of the 2000, we had a ban on antibiotics as growth promoters. So we had to find solution to remove or to change to substitute these carbadox, mecadox, virginamycin, and so on that we could not use anymore. So we started to use acidifiers for that, and after that we understood that we had to improve that use of acidifiers with a specific attention to the acid binding capacity of your feed. So when we started, and after that, just to mention that last year we had a general ban on zinc oxide, and the high level of zinc oxide as therapeutic was totally forbidden in Europe. So it was a secondary element we had to take into account to substitute all these antimicrobial properties. So we started to use acidifiers mainly for 3 main reasons. The first one is when you acidify the diet, the feed intake is improved. The palatability of that acid diet is probably better, and especially for the young piglet. So if you use some citric acid, some butyric acid, you can improve the feed intake, which is so important around weaning. The second reason why we use acidifiers was to improve the protein digestibility. And you know that protein digestibility process started in the stomach. And in the stomach, you need a low pH to start the pre-digestion of the protein. So using acidifiers in that case, and some like formic acid or other propionic acid, benzoic acid, can improve the digestibility of that protein. And that's important because if you can reduce the undigestible fraction of protein entering in the hindgut, you will reduce the risk for any pathogen bacteria development and growth. And you can, in that case, limit the risk of diarrheas during the post-weaning period. So that's important to reduce the protein level or the undigestible protein in the hindgut. You have different solutions for that. You can reduce the protein level, and you have to compensate that with synthetic amino acid, of course, to keep the same results. But you have also to use some highly digestible protein source, like blood plasma, like potato protein, like some soy protein concentrate, where the protein digestibility is much more improved. So in that case, you will reduce the risk of having these undigestible protein entering in the hind gut. So after that, the third reason was because, of course, of the antimicrobial effect of these organic acid. And we started to use short-chain fatty acid, so the C1 to C4, and because of their efficiency as antimicrobial, specifically on gram-negative. But today we are starting to, not today, but we started to use some medium-chain fatty acid because their antimicrobial efficiency is a little bit better, and specifically because the efficiency is more related to the gram-positive bacteria. So using short chain, using medium chain fatty acid, the activity of the antimicrobial activity is probably better. So this is why we use these organic acid very, very early, maybe 20 years ago. But now, and 10 years ago, we understood that if you want to reach the best efficiency on the organic acid properties, you have to pay attention to the acid binding capacity of the feed. And that's important because that acid binding capacity is the capacity of that feed or any solution to resist to any pH variation. So you understand that if the acid binding capacity is too high for that diet, of course you can add acidifiers, and the efficiency of that acidifiers will be limited. So in the same time, you have to use organic acid and to pay attention to the right choice of these acidifiers. You have to pay attention to the acid binding capacity, and specifically for the young piglets diet, where the acid binding capacity has to be very low. Just to give you some example about that, the acid binding capacity of the different feedstuff, we have today a quite complete matrix of values for the optimization or to calculate the acid binding capacity of your feed. And really, frankly, it's really easy to calculate these or to measure that acid binding capacity because it's just a titration. So you just have to add some acid, hydrochloric acid, or you have to add some base, strong base like sodium bicarbonate, to see how much you have to add in that solution to reach a pH 4 or pH 3. But for the young piglet, I would say that pH 4 will be enough. That's why we talk about ABC 4. And physiologically, it's enough. pH 4, it's enough. So having these ABC value, and just some example, the cereals, corn, wheat, barley, and so on, have a very low acid binding capacity, around 100 milliequivalent of hydrochloric acid. On the contrary, all the protein sources, like soybean meal or others, have a higher, around 600 milliequivalent. And if you consider the fish meal, for example, where the protein level is very high and the mineral level very high as well, the acid binding capacity is 1,600 milliequivalent. You understand? So much more higher. And if we consider all the minerals like limestone or sodium bicarbonate, the acid binding capacity, of course, is very, very high. It means around 13,000 milliequivalent. So this is and in that case, if you want to reduce the acid binding capacity, you need to use some organic acid where the acid binding capacity is very low. So in that case, you can play with these different ingredients. And which is important too is that zinc oxide has a very, very high level of acid binding capacity, around 16,000 milliequivalent. So very high. So you can understand that if you have in your feed formulation 3 kilo per ton of zinc oxide, of course, it's not possible to reduce the acid binding capacity to a very low level, even if you add organic acid. So the feed formulator today has a choice to make. You want to use a high level of zinc oxide because it's still possible in your legislation. It's possible to use high level of zinc, so you don't have to use any organic acid. But if you cannot, and if you have no antibiotics in your feed, you have to choose organic acid. And in that case, you have to pay attention to the acid binding capacity using organic acid, but also reducing the calcium carbonate or the limestone if you want. And you have to choose the highest digestibility for the protein sources in order to reduce that acid binding capacity. That's why we have to change our way to formulate the piglet feed around weaning, but also during the second period of post-weaning.
Animan, international supplier of precision minerals. When most trace minerals are only bioavailable, Animan trace elements are also active in the digestive tract and permit secure piglets' gut health.
Gotcha. Well, I believe that's all the time we have today. So thank you again for coming on the show and sharing all your experiences with us.
You're welcome, Clayton. Thank you very much for that.
And everyone else, thank you for listening to the Swine Nutrition Blackbelt Podcast. Please visit us at swinenutritionblackbelt.com and don't forget to subscribe to our podcast channel so you won't miss out on the next episode. See you next week. Hey everyone, we're always searching for the latest and greatest research to share each week. If you have a swine nutrition related research trial and would like to come on the show and share it with us, feel free to email the details about your research to hello@wisenetics.com.